can change everything from your hometown. This is exactly what we're going to see. So I want to call on stage Lars Rasmussen, co-founder of Google Maps and co-founder of Panathēnea.
Oh, we have a crowd for Lars.
Thank you. Kalimera. Kalimera, Athens. Kalimera. Good morning. All right. Oh my God. I can't believe this is happening.
Oh my God.
Canva. You're about to hear my favorite story of all time. Do you guys know Canva? Like, who uses Canva for all their design? Everyone's. Look, just 12 years ago, Canva launched out of nowhere, has become the biggest, fastest growing, one of the biggest, fastest growing tech companies in the world. Design everything, AI fueled, of course, 230 million active users in 190 countries, $32 billion of market cap. 95% of the Fortune 500 companies use Canva. People make 1 billion designs every month, 3 billion in annual revenues, and all fueled, by the way, for decided to good in the world. 800,000 nonprofits use Canva for free, including Panathēnea, thank you. $1.5 billion worth of software donated to schools around the world. And of course, they're just getting started. Please give a warm welcome to Mel and Cliff, the founders of Canva, beaming in from Australia. Hello. Hi, guys. Welcome to Athens. Comfy in there?
Thank you so much for having us.
Glad to be here. It's warm outside.
All right, so look, 15 years ago, your uni students in Perth, a city half the size of Athens in Western Australian mining country, 2,000 kilometers from the nearest other metropolis. How did you come up with this idea that you were going to be the ones changing the world? Mel, you start.
Yeah, so many years ago, I was at university and I was teaching design programs, and I thought they were incredibly complicated. You have to learn a new design program every time you want to design something new. So a program for presentations or videos or websites. And we thought it would all be online and collaborative and way simpler in the future. Facebook was taking off at the time. We were like, why does it take a whole semester just to learn where the buttons were? Whereas you can just jump onto a social media site and start using it straight away. So we wanted to bring that sense of ease and collaboration directly to design programs.
And so you started out essentially digitizing this annual process of designing yearbooks. And what did you learn from this process here? Cliff, maybe you speak now.
Yeah, I mean, we did. We had no money when we got started, so we really had to pick a niche. And I was a school teacher at the time. I didn't know pretty much anything about technology, but I saw a need. I saw these school teachers really struggling with creating a school yearbook, and they had really terrible software to do it. And so Mel had this big idea to change the world, democratize design, make it easy, but we didn't have the budget to fund that big vision. So we picked a niche where we could launch a product quickly, start to get customers, and customers that would pay us. And that's what led us to the yearbook market. And so we built that product. That took a year. Then we launched that product. And then first year we had 15 schools. Second year we had, I think, 50, then 150, then 300. And then all of a sudden we're the largest yearbook company in Australia. And it was actually our customers that brought us back to the True North mission of democratizing design and making it easy. Our customers were asking us, like these are school teachers, were saying, can we use Canva to create our newsletters, our social media graphics, all these other things? And we're like, okay, we need to get back to that core mission and not forget about yearbooks, but evolve it out of the yearbook and into Canva.
Amazing. And then I believe a pivotal moment in Perth still. You meet my dear friend Bill Ty, very accomplished angel investor who loves kite surfing, and Perth has one of the best kiting beaches in the world. So tell us about meeting Bill, and I think this was the first time you got the idea of visiting Silicon Valley.
Yeah, so I went to we were runner-up in WA Inventor of the Year, and we thought that I was invited back to a lunch the following year, and Bill presented, and I went up to him along with the hordes of everyone else and told him a little bit about my company, and he said if I went to San Francisco, he'd be happy to meet with me. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And I then emailed him an NDA, broke a lot of rules that I didn't know about. He said he'd do it, but then he just stopped responding to me. And I'd send him a couple more emails and he continued to not respond. And then I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be in San Francisco. And he was like, sure, I'll meet with you. So I then booked my flight, and then he very fortunately did meet with me, and he very fortunately introduced me to you, Lars.
Yes, I know. That was one of my favorite things. We met, I was actually living in Australia too, working for Google there. We met in Silicon Valley. I was blown away by the size of your vision. But one thing that worried Bill and I think other investors was that you built Fusion Books with an outsourced tech team. And the size of your ambitions to change all of design and everything, we thought required an in-house tech team. And actually, Bill wrote one of my favorite emails ever to you and me. He said, Lars, help Mel and Cliff find a world-class tech team, and then I will invest. Very short email. And so tell people how the next, year or so transpired finding you a crazy good tech team.
Yeah. So with Fusion, we had an outsourced tech team, which was extraordinarily valuable, because what we actually did was we were able to work with a team, and we were able to learn the ropes of product development and how it works, and not to go too crazy with the budget, because we were on a very tight shoestring where it was all organically funded.
Definitely taught us the skill of prioritization, because when you're paying an outsourced tech team by the hour, you need to be ruthless on your priorities.
But you were correct, Lars. We did need to have our own world-class tech team, and you were correct in the scale of our ambition. We definitely needed to have an in-house tech team. I thought that would transpire to, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, and then we'd be able to have an amazing tech team together, or at least just getting the ball rolling. But what, as you know all too well, that actually eventuated in was I'd bring you LinkedIn links, I would bring you resumes, I would bring you physical people, and you told me everyone wasn't quite up to scratch for what you needed or what we needed to be able to create this incredible company that we were envisaging. And eventually you introduced me to Cameron Adams, who went on to become our co-founder, and Dave Herndon, who became our CTO. And they were two incredible people that have been with us for more than a decade now. But you were definitely right, even though it was a little frustrating at the start to be taking quite so long to get the right people in place. You helped us set really incredible foundations with an absolutely incredible team.
Frustrating.
Remember though, since then, that was 10 years ago, or 13 years ago, the cost of starting a business has gone down drastically. So for all the entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs in the room, now with vibe coding, you've got Canva code, you've got ChatGPT, the cost of starting a business and accelerating that time to market has compressed significantly. That means it's the best to turn that into a company, and it's an exciting time for everyone.
Look, one of my favorite Canva stories actually is that's where you persuaded Cameron to join you, which is amazing. And then Dave Herndon, one of the smartest engineers I'd ever worked with at Google, he decided to join. He's now the CTO, but when he decided to join, Google said, please don't leave Google, David, and they 5x his salary overnight, like stock and cash, and he was already really well paid. And Dave called me up, sad Dave, called me up and said, Lars, I can't say no to all this money. I can't go join this startup. And I have to be honest, I was ready to go, okay, well, next. And then, but Mel was like, hell no. And so you made this incredible, like graphic novel. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So we were ridiculously excited about the idea that Dave was going to join us. And we were absurdly crushed when he suggested that it may not be for a while, or maybe he was getting a little cold feet. And so I went to his Facebook profile, and I took a lot of his images and I rearranged them into a little story to say about how when he was going to join Canva, it was going to be, we're going to change the face of the internet, we're going to build one of the coolest companies ever. It was extraordinarily dorky, but fortunately, I think it brought a smile to his dial, and actually that was literally what he wrote in the email in response, and he joined us. Sometimes it takes a little. We were also like the #1 result for bizarre pitch deck when you search on Google for a while.
Yeah, go look
when
for
the press
deck.
got hold of that. But it was a lot of fun, and it was extraordinary to get him to join the team, and he's been incredible to work with ever since.
And I think the lesson there is perseverance pays off. When you're building your early team, you don't have much more than an idea, and we didn't have a strong track record. We hadn't worked at Google. We hadn't had we had a small yearbook company, but no one saw that as any good. So all we had was our persistence and being able to sell the dream, and it was only through a lot of hard work that we were able to really build that, and good introductions that we were really able to build that team. And so I think the key takeaway there is perseverance around the top talent, because it's that top talent that forms the bedrock of your company. If you build a building on shaky foundations, it's not going to be a robust building. But if you really take time to build a really strong early team, that's where you're really going to have incredible results over time.
And I got to say, as I was a very young investor at the time, you were only my second investment, and seeing this tenacity and complete unwillingness to give up, I got to say, was very very inspiring to eventually got that check. But speaking of investment, so during this time between having the idea and finally landing a seed round, I think you got 100 VCs turned you down. And so what sort of ninja mind magic powers do you have to keep going in the face of that many rejections?
I have to say, every single one hurt a lot. But we also were really, we also aren't very good at giving up, maybe to a fault, as you may be able to tell. And so even though we were getting, every time we would get a rejection, we'd go and refine our pitch deck. People were like, the market's not big enough. And we're like, it sure is, this is why. And then we integrate that into one of the pages of our deck. Or someone would be like, you're the same as some other company. And we're like, we're definitely not. And then we'd have a page that would show the market landscape and where we fit in and where we believe the gap was. Or a lot of people were like, I don't understand the design industry. And so then we'd have a number of pages explaining how the design industry currently works and how we're going to bring it all and integrate it together into one simple platform, and we're going to empower the whole world to design. And so every time we got a rejection, it was actually quite helpful, because they'd often give us a reason, and then we could incorporate that into our deck. Sometimes they wouldn't give us a reason, and that wasn't particularly helpful. But it was very helpful when they gave us a specific reason. It also makes a pretty hilarious read to go back through some of the rejection emails from the early days. Amazing.
So look, here's a central question I think is on a lot of people's mind here. So we're in Athens, and I think a lot of the foreign audience here are from cities more like Athens or Sydney than, say, Silicon Valley.
Thank you. The meeting has now ended.
Oh, we should have paid the pro subscription. All right. I have rehearsed a little dance number in case this happened. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do. I know. This reminds me of a dream I've been having every night for the past week. Guys, can I tell you a fantastic Canva story, though, while they're not listening? So we're, early on, you're back.
I'm curious what you're going to say then.
Yes, big round of applause to Holo Connect. Save the days.
I thought you'd bring the cheapskate, because when it crashed, it said you need to pay the subscription.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, how could we forget? We are a nonprofit. There's a donation box outside the door. Okay, so the central question.
That's frugality.
Yes. So Silicon Valley. I know a lot of investors must have encouraged you to move to Silicon Valley. I know you spent a lot of time fundraising there, but you decided to go to Sydney. Tell us about this. Why did you make this decision? What are the pros and cons? And maybe also tell the audience here, what was Sydney like 15 years ago? Was it beaming with unicorns? What was it like?
Well, we're from Perth, which is the most isolated city in the world. And we came to the conclusion pretty quickly that that wasn't the best place to build a global tech company. We said we need to be somewhere that at least has some engineers and has at least one other tech company. And Sydney, fortunately, had Google and it had Atlassian. So we thought that'll do. And so we moved to Sydney. I think being not based in Silicon Valley has a lot of advantages and disadvantages, and I think the advantages have compounded over time. The disadvantages were people didn't really want to meet you or take you seriously back in the day when you weren't in sort of, they used to say, if we can't ride our bike to the startups, we're not going to invest. And I was like, all right, well, you're not going to ride your bike to Australia, are you? And so, but beyond that, building in isolation, but for a global audience, really gives you intense focus, and you're not caught up in all the hoopla that happens, all the trends, all the hypes, all the Twitter sphere or X sphere, whatever's happening these days, in what happens in Silicon Valley, which gives you a huge amount of focus to actually really care about what your customers want and delivering that for your customers. And so I think that's probably like the biggest advantage, and also talent. In the Bay Area, it's so incredibly competitive for talent. You have the FANG companies, Facebook, Apple, Google, I forget what the others are. And like, it's really hard to get off the ground because people are paid so well. And in places like Athens, places like Sydney, you can find those people that are sick of working at the big companies and want to work for a startup a lot easier than in those huge tech hubs. And so, yeah, lots of advantages.
It feels like we've really got to have the best of both worlds over the years. We've spent a lot of time in America, in Silicon Valley, and really getting to meet investors and learning from best-in-class operators and learning about people that have scaled huge companies. And then at the same time, we've got to be able to build an incredible team here in Sydney, and now we've got campuses all around the world. But that initial culture was so foundational. We've had people work at Canva for many years, and being able to build such an incredible team has been really incredible.
That's amazing. And so let's go to 2013, August, Canva launches. Tell us about the early, like, did you start just with Australia as a test market, or did you go straight for the world? And how did you grow in the beginning? How did you get your first 1 million users?
Yeah, we were global from day one, but we were primarily English to start with, and I think it was 2016 that we went into 20 languages, and then we scaled to 100 languages. But we've always had the idea of it being a global company right from the start. And I think that's been really helpful in the way we've thought about the product, the way we've thought about how you should be able to jump in and get started straight away. I remember the first user testing we did, we had people come in and like click around, and they were like got a little bit scared to actually press any buttons because they'd spent their whole lives being told they weren't creative, they had no design capabilities, and then all of a sudden we were like, hey, here's this tool. And so we spent a lot of time getting people to feel confident designing. We'd have these little challenges that you do, and every time you did a little challenge, you'd feel a little bit of satisfaction and build up your confidence a little more and a little more. And then you'd finish your starter challenges, and then you'd actually share it. And so we wanted to reduce the time, rather than it being days or even months, to be able to design just into the first 5 minutes to be able to give you a little confidence. And that was a really helpful mindset, because we couldn't go and tutor every single person around the world. You know, with our first company, we would literally get on the phone and give them a 30-minute tutorial. But being global from day one meant we really needed to ensure that the product was very accessible, very simple, right from the start.
Amazing. And let's talk leadership and company for a second. So Cliff, you run ops for Canva. Uni student, you start small team. Now you run a 5,000 super fast growing company. Like, how do you learn those skills? How?
I'm not big at textbooks, so I very much learn on the job, learn by doing, learn by making lots of mistakes. I'm a history, like my other job before Canva was being a history teacher, so I also love to listen to a lot of podcasts about historical founders and the trials and tribulations and their learnings over time. And probably my favourite one is a podcast called Founders, and it's like 1 hour podcast that summarise autobiographies and biographies, but they're not just summaries. The podcaster gives like really good commentary and narrative, and if he's interviewed the people and whatnot. So it's a really rich and quick way to take the learnings of the world's best business builders and take that into your morning run. So that's how I teach myself, but also the people we hire as well. As we grow as a business, we hire the best in every field, and I'm learning as much from the people that work for me as hopefully they learn stuff from me as well. I'm more confident in me learning from them than them learning from me. So just about sort of just figuring it out, I guess.
That's amazing. Look, Mel, goal setting. Tell us, like, one thing that blew my mind from the first time we met. You were like, I have a 2-step plan. We're going to build the biggest tech company or the biggest company in the world, and then do as much good as we can with that. And I said, old guy, right? I'm like, you mean the biggest design company in the world? And you're like, no, I mean the biggest company. And like, tell us about the role of setting crazy big goals, and tell us about some of the goals that seemed impossible that you have actually reached on this journey.
Yeah, it does sound a little ridiculous reflecting back, but I really believe you have to believe yourself before you can will it into existence. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about, like, what does the future look like? The future that we want to work so hard, we're going to spend years of our lives turning that into existence, where we're going to be able to attract people to quit their well-paying jobs and all sorts of great companies to come and work at this thing. So
with a pay cut as well.
With a pay cut. And so it was really important to get a really clear picture in my head of what would be the future and the future that I wanted to live in. And I think that's sort of the first thing. In fact, in the very early days, it wasn't even the future that I could will into existence. I spent a lot of time thinking, what is the future of design? Where is it going to go, over the coming decades? And then it took a lot of courage to start to think, well, maybe I could turn it into existence. Because at the start, I was like, that's the future. Let's do it for the yearbook market. And then I was like, well, that's the future. Maybe we could do that. And then, over time, starting to believe that we could actually will that future into existence ourselves. After 5 years of the first company, we thought, surely it would have been done by somebody else by now, and it hadn't been. And so then that was when I probably came and had a little chat to you, Lars, to take on the bigger plan.
Yes. Look, amazing. Let's talk Canva today and in the future. So last year you launched Canva Enterprise, and you just did this incredible Canva Create set of launches in LA with spreadsheets and code generation and all kinds of madness. Like, is this the natural evolution of Canva? Like, where does this go, if you can share? Cliff. Sorry. Or Mel.
I'm going to steal this one. So our mission is to empower the world to design, and we've broken it down into what we call our mission pillars too, to empower everyone to design anything with every ingredient, in every language, on every device. And every year we set what is the next most important thing for us to do in each of these pillars. So as you just saw with the launch at Canva Create, we launched Canva Sheets, we launched Canva Code, we launched Canva AI. And so some of those were years in the making. It was really exciting to get them out to the world. But we're just continuously thinking, what is the most strategically important thing to do to achieve our mission pillar, to actually live up to the mission that we've set for our community around the world. So, you asked earlier, what are some of the things we've actually willed into existence? We've had this crazy big goal that we would enable 1 billion people around the world to design with Canva each month. And we've got 230 million, so we're kind of making good progress. But we broke it down into, well, that means we need to have 1 in 5 internet users in every country. And it was pretty exciting that we just crossed that threshold in the Philippines recently, and it's still growing really rapidly. So it's funny when you set a goal that seems completely ridiculous, and then you actually get to will that into existence. But on a 2-step plan, Lars, I think we have still many, many decades of work to go to bring those truly to life.
Amazing, yes. Canva Create, by the way, blew my mind. You did it in LA 2 years in a row. Do I understand correctly that you're going to do it in Athens next year?
That's it. Athens on the way.
Can't wait.
You got the Acropolis.
We have some really cool ancient theaters here that I think would be perfect for.
That would be cool, Lars.
Yes. Okay, I'm
Not saying
on
it's
it.
not on the table.
I'm on
Crazy
it.
goals.
I'm on it. Okay, look, let's talk AI. AI. Yeah. Maybe some in the audience can have. Look, when Gen AI hit, like took off like a rocket ship a few years, I got a lot of emails going, "Ooh, there goes Canva, Lars. Now we're just gonna like talk to AI." But it really like accelerated your growth. Tell us about AI. How do you think about it? How do you use it?
We've always believed in taking the greatest and latest technology and putting it in the hands of everyone around the world. And so years before AI was cool, we were actually doing AI. And so we had things like magic recommendations. We integrated a background remover tool, so one click, you could remove the background. And then we actually acquired that company, Kaleido. And this was all before AI was cool. But what you can see is this common thread is that we've always taken the latest and greatest technology and put it in our community's hands around the world to ensure that everyone has equal access to these tools, whether you can, wherever you are in the world, whatever your economic circumstance. And so when Gen AI happened, it was just such a natural extension for us to continue to integrate these tools and to actually build and invest in the areas that we need to ourselves. And that's exactly what you've seen with Magic Studio. I think our AI products have now been used more than 16 billion times, so it's fair to say they're being used quite extensively.
Amazing, amazing. We're running a little short of time here. I have 2 more questions for you. First, tell us about step 2 of your 2-step plan of doing the most good you can in the world.
As we think about step 2, there's so many facets to it. On one side, early on we decided that as the company was growing, we couldn't speak to everyone every day, we couldn't be in every single conversation helping to make every decision, and so we actually created our company values. And I think that has had such an extraordinary impact over the years, because it means that as everyone makes decisions, and there's tens of thousands of decisions being made every day, people know the grounding of the values that we'd like everyone to be making decisions on. And then more tangibly, we have had, we took the 1% pledge a number of years ago, and so that's 1% of our team's time, 1% of our product, 1% of our equity, and 1% of profit. And that's all been going to do good things in the world, and that has now actually equated to more than $1 billion worth of product for education and non-profits around the world.
Can I just take a pause on that? Like, the 1% pledge is a really, really great way of getting into philanthropy. A lot of people, especially early in their entrepreneurship journey, they know they want to help the world in some way, but they don't know how. Setting your company up at incorporation or at your Series Seed or Series A and committing to the 1% pledge, it's very low lift. Your investors won't oppose it at that stage. And it just sort of bakes philanthropy and doing good for the world into your incorporation docs and into the DNA of your company. And we just did that when we started Canva, and we forgot about it. And then after about 5, 6, 7 years, we're like, oh wow, that 1% of profit is actually significant. That 1% of equity is worth a lot now. Let's actually start thinking about how best to deploy those funds. And we started small. We gave to like local causes, things that were close and that we knew about. And then as that pool of money grew, and it's only 1% of profit, so it's like, it's not huge in the grand scheme of things, it allowed us to really start making bigger and bigger bets and really learning about philanthropy at a more macro scale. And so like, it's one small thing you can do that really sets your company and your life up on a journey to make the world a better place. So if there's one thing I can encourage folks to do when they're setting up at scaling companies, it's sign up for the 1% pledge.
And then we took that a step further and we said, well, we've also got quite a lot of equity, a little more than 30% of Canva. So let's take all of that, let's take 30% of Canva and use that to do good things in the world as well. And it's been pretty extraordinary to see the impact that's had, but we are just getting started there. So we've been working with an incredible non-profit called Give Directly, and giving cash directly to people living in extreme poverty, because we don't believe that anyone should be on this planet and not having their basic human needs met. So being able to have shelter and food and school and all the really, really basic things that everyone on this planet should have. So it's been really exciting for getting started on that journey. We're really excited to continue to double down immensely on that over the years to come as well.
That's incredible. All right, my last question. I apologize, it's a little open-ended, but there's a lot of young budding entrepreneurs and people considering going down that path. What advice do you have for a young entrepreneur, 2025? What should they do?
I'm going to give 2 slightly competing pieces of advice, but I think that both of them are quite helpful to do in tandem. So one is to think about the future of the world, the future of lots of different industries, just literally brainstorm with AI, brainstorm with your friends. What is the future that you would like to live in? What would you like your local community to look like? What would you like the schools to be like? What would you like transportation to be like? Just go really wide and get an opinion about what the future is that you would like to live in. And then the next step is the exact opposite of thinking about macro, which is just to get started on something really minutely small with a tiny, tiny goal. And But ideally, that tiny, tiny goal is in the direction of the future of the world that you'd like to will into existence. Because if you're really lucky, maybe that tiny goal will grow and grow and grow, and then you'll actually be able to will that into existence. But you want to be really sure that it's headed in the direction of the future of the world that you'd like to actually live in.
Cliff?
I'm not as visionary as Mel, so I like to look at problems that are close to me and that I understand. So, for example, working as a school teacher, I saw school teachers struggle with creating yearbooks. That's something that I could identify as like a tangible thing. I knew it was a problem, and then you don't want to solve a problem that only like 5 people have. If you identify a problem in an industry or anywhere, you want to say, hey, is this a problem that lots of people have? And then are they willing to pay to solve that problem? Is it such a pain point that they're willing to pay? And then what is the solution? What is the product that would solve that pain point? That's how I go around it, which is a lot less visionary than Mel. That's why I shut up. I was like, I'm not going to like go after Mel's visionary one and tell you like.
But that's not very good too.
Yeah.
That's amazing, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. And yes, warm round of applause. Mel and Cliff from Sydney. Thank you so much. This has been crazy inspiring, and we'll see you at Canva Create Athens 2026.
Thank you so much, love. Thank you so much, Athens. Lovely to see you all.
Bye, guys. Thank you.